I worked overtime until midnight and fainted at my desk. Mia took me to the hospital. Mia held the report with a complicated expression and said, "Sister Lena, you're pregnant. You've been 3 months along." As she spoke, she began to cry, hugging me fearfully and asking, "Did something bad happen to you?" I was immediately amused by her and whispered, "No, actually I've been married for 3 years. I'm sorry I never told you." In the eyes of colleagues and friends, I had always been single. Some things, I never deliberately mentioned. Mia poked my shoulder angrily and said plaintively, "You scared me to death. Making me worry for nothing, something as big as getting married, and you kept it from me." I smiled and said, "I kept the marriage from you, but you'll be the first to know about the divorce, alright?" Mia was stunned for a moment, then burst into tears. The young girl, not very old, had plenty of tears. "Alright, stop crying. Tomorrow is a rare day off, let me take you home." Mia held me tightly, sobbing, "I want to know what the man who let you down looks like. Such a gentle sister like you, and he actually dares to treat you badly." I wiped her tears and asked curiously, "Huh? What if I'm the one who let him down?" Mia said aggrievedly, "No way. You're such a gentle and beautiful person, always speaking softly. The first time I met you, I didn't even dare to speak loudly, afraid of offending you. You've been at the company for 3 years, and you know I don't like drinking water, yet you still bought a little teapot to brew fruit tea for me regularly and on schedule." The more she spoke, the harder she cried, "Forget it. Out with the old, in with the new. Our sister Lena will definitely meet someone better. The very best." In the end, it was me who comforted her, telling her not to cry, and sent her off on the bus home. Come to think of it, I'm pretty good at soothing people. I've been doing it for Caleb for 12 years now. Coming home, the living room light was on. The man sitting on the sofa looked at me displeased. "Coming home at 3 in the morning, Lena, don't you owe me an explanation?" 3 months apart, he had lost a bit of weight. Financial news said his overseas acquisition was a success this time. Caleb's abilities have never been in doubt. I brewed a pot of flower tea and poured a cup for him. Caleb inhaled the aroma of the tea, and the furrow in his brow slowly eased. He glanced at me and teased, "Don't think you can fool me, Lena. You've always been a little schemer since you were a kid. If you don't want to answer, you just make people drink tea." I couldn't help but smile. It turned out Caleb did know me a little after all. After he finished the tea, I took the divorce agreement from the drawer and handed it to him. Caleb's eyebrows immediately shot up as he took it and flipped through the pages, sneering, "You're really considerate, huh? Leaving with nothing, making it look like I'm the one mistreating you when this gets out." I said calmly, "We've been married for 3 years, and I haven't contributed financially at all. Instead, you bought the house, the car, and furnished the home. If you're worried about public opinion, I can align my story with yours. Thank you so much for being so considerate." Caleb sneered at me with a face full of anger. He grabbed a pen, signed the paper hastily, slammed the agreement onto the floor, and stormed off. I sat on the sofa and quietly finished a pot of tea. After an hour, my phone rang. It was Arya sending me a photo. Caleb, wearing a bathrobe and holding a glass of red wine, lounged lazily on the sofa. I swiped up casually, and it was still a photo of Caleb, taken 3 months ago. He had been drinking, his ears slightly flushed, lying on Arya's lap. Arya said, "Lena, you stole someone else's love, now it's time to give it back. Don't be too flashy. As long as we don't get divorced, you'll be the third party every single day." I sent this message, fully expecting Arya to be furious. She had been proud and arrogant since childhood. How could she endure such humiliation? Saying she stole Arya's love was not quite accurate. When I first saw Caleb at 16, I was already thinking about how to pluck this crown jewel of the clouds and plant it in my own garden. Now, after admiring him for 12 years, it's enough. The year I first met Caleb, I was 16. When I was young, my parents died in a car accident, so I lived with my grandfather. When Grandpa passed away, he left me 20 million and donated all his other assets. He lived a wild and unruly first half of his life, which drove away his lifelong love, and then he remarried. Grandpa's ex-wife was none other than Caleb's grandmother. "Lena, since you're my niece, I'll give you one more chance. Tell me, where did you hide the old man's inheritance?" My uncle pointed at my nose, shouting angrily, "At such a young age, you don't behave. How dare you toy with us?" I'm furious. The old man had billions in assets. I don't believe he left us not a single cent, and yet he donated everything. My aunt's face twisted with rage as she lunged at me, ready to strike. I calmly pointed at the camera on the roof and said, "If any of you dare lay a finger on me, the footage will be immediately uploaded to all major networks nationwide. And, as the deputy director of the art museum, you assaulted your own niece over an inheritance dispute. By then, Grandpa's inheritance won't come to a penny, and you'll lose your job instead. Not really worth it, is it?" Aunt's hand froze inches from my face, her gaze sharp enough to pierce me, angrily shouting, "Lena, if it weren't for rushing to celebrate your birthday back then, why would your parents have driven onto the highway in the rain? You're a jinx. You cursed your own parents to death, and now you've cursed the old man too." I looked at her with curiosity and said, "Aunt, after all these years, you still haven't learned anything. What makes you think a few words like that can hurt me?" Uncle, smoking a cigarette, said, "All right, let's put everything else aside for now. That 20 million, keep 1 million for yourself, and give the rest to us." I stood up, snatched the cigarette from his hand, slowly crushed it out, and smiled as I said, "Don't smoke, Grandpa hates the smell of smoke the most. As for the money, I won't give you a single cent. This house has already been donated to the state as a memorial. From now on, don't come back." He was so furious that he jumped up and down on the spot, never expecting that I would donate this $60 million house. I will never forget that when I was 8 years old, my parents passed away, leaving me a large inheritance. The ugly way my uncle and aunt tried to embezzle the inheritance. My aunt still had the nerve to say that my parents' car accident happened because they were celebrating my birthday. If she hadn't been drunk and insisted that my dad take a detour to pick her up, how could they have ended up on that road full of trucks? "I'm going to teach you a lesson on how to respect your elders for my brother." Uncle raised his arm, ready to slap me. That was when Caleb appeared. He lazily grabbed my uncle's wrist, veins bulging slightly on the back of his hand, twisted it hard, and pushed him to the ground. "Bullying kids, what kind of skill is that?" He frowned, his face full of disdain. I quietly slipped the mini stun baton into my pocket and looked up at him. Caleb was simply too dazzling. His hair was jet black, his eyes beautiful, and he had the refined, noble face of a young gentleman. Every raised eyebrow and glance was a stunning sight. The bodyguards and lawyers Caleb brought took care of everything on my behalf. Before he passed, Grandpa told me that my aunt and uncle were nothing but wolves and tigers. He was afraid I would be bullied if I stayed in T-City. He said he would ask an old friend from City B to pick me up and assured me that the friend would treat me well. "Lena, Grandpa knows you can take good care of yourself, but in my heart, I still worry. There's an old saying, great wisdom often brings sorrow, and deep affection shortens life. You, who seem so reserved, actually have the deepest feelings," he said kindly, his gaunt hand gently stroking my hair. "People who don't know you think you're a meek little girl, but you're the most stubborn of all. When you were in elementary school, there was a boy who bullied you every day, always pulling your hair. You'd cry on the surface, but in the blink of an eye, you'd douse him with hair dye, forcing that chubby kid to shave his head." Hearing this, tears slowly streamed down my face as I smiled and said, "What I do has never escaped Grandpa's sharp eyes." Grandpa smiled too. He smiled and smiled, then closed his eyes and lowered his hand. From that day on, I had to live alone. Caleb came to pick me up, and I remained silent the entire way. When we arrived in City B and I saw the old house before me, I realized I no longer had a home. Caleb suddenly said, "Don't be afraid. From now on, this will be your home, and I will be your brother." I turned to look at his exquisitely handsome face, and hearing his slightly awkward reassurance, I felt my heart stir. The thoughts of a 16-year-old girl planted a seed, which I watered daily as it sprouted and grew. At that time, who could have imagined that 12 years later, I would be the one to uproot the begonia I had planted in my heart? That day, Grandma Eleanor wore a cheapao and personally came out to greet me. I had seen many photos of her. She was in her 60s then, yet her grace was undiminished. "That old Callan fellow does have a good granddaughter," Grandma Eleanor said, holding my hand as we walked into the old house. I turned to Caleb and said softly, "Grandpa mentioned you before. My birthday is 3 months earlier than yours. By rights, you should be calling me sister." I watched as Caleb, looking annoyed, tugged at his reddened ear, shot me a glare, and then walked away. I thought to myself, he really can't stand being teased, I'll have to tease him more from now on. Later, Arya, furious, called me a seductress, accusing me of luring Caleb. I vaguely remember it was Caleb's 18th birthday party. He wasn't good with alcohol and had collapsed on the sofa in the lounge to rest. That day, he wore a dark velvet suit, his collar open and loose, revealing a handsome collarbone. His usually pale face was tinged with a faint blush, like a spring intoxication of crabapple blossoms, nothing more. I took a warm towel over, pressed my finger gently to his lips, and asked, "Caleb, can I kiss you?" He suddenly opened his eyes, his ears flushed red, but he didn't pull away. Then Considerate agreed. I kissed him, and sure enough, his lips were very soft. But just a few seconds later, Arya rushed in, crying her heart out. She shoved me hard to the ground, angrily saying, "Lena, so you do like Caleb? No wonder you've been so good to him all these years." I bumped into the trellis behind me, scraping my arm. "Yeah, I do like Caleb." I covered my arm, looking at Caleb who was still frozen on the sofa, tears in my eyes as I said, "Caleb, I'm sorry for making Arya sad. From now on, I won't come near you anymore." I left the lounge, closed the door, and wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes. Arya grew up with Caleb, so she naturally thought Caleb was her personal possession. I didn't care whether Caleb liked me or not, just looking at his face made me feel at ease, and that was enough. But on the surface, Arya treated me like a sister, while behind my back she formed cliques to bully me, even destroying the heirlooms my grandfather left me. Caleb knew full well that Arya was bullying me, yet he wanted to keep the peace and couldn't bring himself to punish her. He clearly had feelings for me, but he couldn't let go of the bond he shared with Arya since childhood. I've never cared for a wavering heart. I will personally break the spring-sleeping begonia and make Arya regret it. As for Caleb, once the begonia is broken, who still cares when it withers? After giving Caleb the divorce agreement, I quit my job to recuperate at home. While sorting through old things, I came across trophies covered in dust, stored away in a box. If it weren't for these dusty trophies, I might have forgotten that I once had a brilliant youth. My grandfather was an internationally renowned master painter. I started learning to paint with him when I was 3 and showed some talent. Many people said I was a shining star of tomorrow, destined to become the art world's second Callan. But now, my right hand can no longer lift a paintbrush. The year I graduated at 18, Arya and her people cornered me in the bathroom. Arya smashed my right hand with a baseball bat, and for many years after, I could barely even peel an apple. Caleb appeared before me, speaking tiredly, "Because of you, my family and Arya's family have had a serious falling out. Arya regrets it now and suffers every day. Lena, can you take a step back? Stop pursuing this matter." I looked up at his handsome brows and eyes, tears in mine, and asked him, "Caleb, to like you, I have to pay such a heavy price. If it were Arya lying in the hospital today, would you still want to let things drop?" Caleb was silent for a long moment before saying, "Lena, I'm sorry." Later, Arya went abroad, and in everyone's eyes, that chapter was closed. Arya thrived overseas, still the proud little princess she always was. As for me, I was forced to withdraw from the art world, vanishing quietly amid everyone's regrets. I wiped all those trophies clean and put them back in place. At 6 in the evening, Caleb came to pick me up to go to the old house for dinner. Every Saturday, whenever we were free, we would return to have dinner with Grandma Eleanor. I sat in the passenger seat, catching a whiff of perfume. The gardenia scent that Arya liked, unchanged after all these years. I rolled down the window, letting in a bit of autumn wind, somewhat bleak. While Caleb waited at the red light, his fingers kept tapping the steering wheel, seeming restless. I knew he was waiting for me to speak, waiting for me to look down. Over the years, he had long gotten used to me soothing him. During his rebellious phase, when he raced on the mountain roads, I was the one sitting in the passenger seat, crazy with him until we were done, then heading home. Uncle Hank was so angry that his back was bruised from the beating. It was me who quietly went to dress his wounds in the middle of the night and coaxed him to eat. During his startup days, he was so busy fighting with the family that he barely had time to eat. It was me who delivered meals to him regularly and on time. When he threw a tantrum and went drinking, refusing to come home, calling me but not speaking, it was me who called a car late at night to go to the bar and soothe him. When I was busy with work and had no time to accompany him, neglecting him, he contacted Arya to provoke me. The scent of perfume in the passenger seat today was nothing but a warning to me. Caleb was declaring war on me. "Lena, you love me desperately, and if you don't hold on tight, I'll leave at any moment." Every time he contacted Arya before, I would get nervous and try to be better to him. This trick never failed him. "Caleb, find some time to get the divorce papers," I said calmly. From now on, no need for Arya to send me photos. You're free. Caleb's brows were tightly furrowed as he asked me, what did she send? I showed him those few photos. Caleb flipped through them, then suddenly exploded in anger. Lena, you really have a lot of patience. 3 months ago, when I called you from the US, you didn't mention any of this to me. I was lying with my head on Arya's lap and you didn't care at all. Do you even have me in your heart? His chest heaved as he suppressed the turmoil inside. He pulled the car over to the side of the road. Caleb got out to smoke a cigarette, then got back in, opened his phone, and slammed a pixelated photo in front of me, his eyes filled with unbearable pain. Lena, what have I been to you all these years? Huh? Am I just a substitute for Noah? In the photo, I had my hair tied up in a high ponytail, wearing a school uniform, my cheeks slightly flushed. Next to me, a boy tilted his head back with a radiant smile, bright as the sun. His hand, hidden behind his back, was tightly gripping my wrist. At 16, in the bloom of youth, I once stood shoulder to shoulder with a boy under the sunlight, welcoming the spring breeze on our faces. Noah, just saying his name brings tears to my eyes. Noah is an illegitimate child. Grandma Eleanor didn't know how to take care of him, so she sent him to City T. He looks about 70% like Caleb, but their personalities are completely different. He is humble, gentle, and sunny. Unlike Caleb, who is arrogant and cold. Noah seems to have endless patience with me. No matter how willful I am, he always stands firmly by my side. When I was sick, I didn't like taking medicine and would hide under the covers, refusing to come out. Noah never forced me, he just gently patted me and sang the songs I liked. He kept at it until I crawled out from under the blanket, then slipped me a marshmallow, pinched my nose, and coaxed me into taking the medicine. I've always had a stubborn streak since I was little, handling many things with ease, except when it came to sports. Noah had been playing tennis since he was young, collecting awards left and right. On the tennis court, when my stubbornness kicked in, I insisted on having a match with him to see who would win. Noah shrugged and smiled. Lena, you can't win. As long as it's you on the other side, I'm destined to lose. His deskmate will always be me, only I can sit on the back of his bike, I will always take the first bite of his strawberry, and my backpack will always hang from his shoulder. Noah saved all the best things for me. That photo was taken on the court when he won the national tennis championship. After the noise faded and the crowds dispersed, he held my hand tightly and left behind a photo of us together. After that, there was no after. Noah was sick, lying in bed with tears glistening in his eyes. He said, Lena, forget me. Forget me and live well. How can I forget, Noah? Tell me, how am I supposed to forget you? They say you shouldn't meet someone too stunning when you're young, or you'll spend a lifetime trying to forget. At the time, I didn't take that saying seriously. I had met the best Noah, and he would be with me forever. But after he passed away, I swallowed bitter medicine, refused the teacher's arrangement for a deskmate, rode my bike to and from school alone, and stopped buying strawberries. At night, I passed by the tennis court and broke down crying. Only then did I understand what it means to spend a lifetime trying to forget. Since I was 3, we have lived together. In my memory, Noah is still Noah, how could I ever forget? 6 months after Noah passed away, Grandpa also died. For a long time, I doubted myself, was I truly a cursed soul, destined to lose those I love in this life? My aunt scolded me as a jinx, a disaster, and though I kept a calm exterior, my heart was already shattered into 1,000 pieces. My parents died in a car accident, and Noah, along with Grandpa, also left me. I gritted my teeth to keep from breaking down, mustering the strength to stand up against my uncle and aunt. Until Caleb appeared before me, like a lifeline, saving me from drowning. I looked at the photo, wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes, and smiled. Caleb, you already know. All these 12 years, everything I did to you was what he did to me. Every bit of kindness I showed you was a reenactment of the love he gave me. Caleb slammed his phone against the glass in fury, shouting, Get out. Get out right now. Lena, you make me sick. I glanced at the time and said gently, sick? There's something even more disgusting. Want to see it? Caleb, I'm giving you a parting gift, a divorce present. Arya ruined my hands, yet you stand there, glamorous under the spotlight. It's not that simple. At 8 o'clock in the evening, a video about Arya went viral across the internet. Lena, do you really think that marrying Caleb means you have his heart? Arya locked me in a cramped storage room, holding a cup of coffee as she slowly poured it over my face, sneering triumphantly, "Look in the mirror and see what you really are." "When I broke your hand back then," Caleb said nothing. "Today, even if I trample on your face, he still won't say a word." "TSK, Lena, wipe your face. You'll need to stay sharp later to help me with photo editing." Arya mockingly threw a tissue at my face and giggled, "I'm telling you, I'll keep nitpicking the photos you edit, and you'll never finish fixing them. If you have the guts, quit. If you lose this job, who else would hire a disabled person like you?" Arya, she still underestimated me. She always thought I was powerless to resist. I was just waiting for the right moment to divorce Caleb, and this was the perfect time. No one expected that the sweet-looking, cheerful, wealthy and beautiful Arya would be such a person. Damn. You really can't judge a book by its cover. Arya was the one who interfered in Caleb's marriage. So disgusting. Who does she think she is? A high and mighty superstar, and she treats a working person like this? For a moment, the trending comments exploded. Everyone still had one question. Hey? Caleb, the top-looking guy on Financial Street, got married? Who is his wife? The next moment, a blogger with over 1 million followers shot to the top of the trending list. I'm very sorry to appear before you all like this. I am Caleb's wife, also known to you as Orange. Caleb and I have been married for 3 years. His entanglement with Arya has drained all my hope for this marriage. We have already signed the divorce agreement and will officially finalize the divorce soon. Thank you all for your concern. I will not be making any further comments on this matter. Within just 30 seconds of posting, this Weibo post had over 100,000 likes, shares, and comments. Many prominent figures in the art world shared the post. Orange won an international award 5 years ago with her distinctive painting style, skyrocketing to fame and hailed as the most commercially valuable artist of the year. She has never given any interviews, only interacting with fans through daily posts on Weibo. There's no such thing as a sudden emergence, and no such thing as low-key gold that will inevitably be discovered. I never admit defeat. When Arya broke my right hand, I trained my left hand diligently. Grandpa's old friends encouraged me time and again, accompanying me through countless seasons, helping me regain my confidence. 5 years ago, the Autumn Leaves on Cold Mountain painting I sent to the competition stunned the art world. No one knew how much effort I had poured into it behind the scenes. Arya thought I had long since faded into obscurity with time. I was simply shining brilliantly where she couldn't see. In the online world, verifying something is very simple. The divorce agreement. Orange actually walked away with nothing. I'm so furious I could die. Girls. Look, isn't this the scumbag couple I caught on camera 3 months ago at the Hilton Hotel in the US? No wonder the photo Orange posted by chance showed her painting with her left hand. Turns out Arya broke her right hand. Damn. Look what I just found out. Orange is actually Mr. Callan's granddaughter. I always wondered why Lena, who was so gifted back then, suddenly disappeared and quit the art world. Turns out Arya ruined her right hand. Caleb and Arya are truly scumbag man and woman. Caleb leaned back in his seat, silent, watching the public opinion fermenting online. His phone kept ringing wildly, with Arya's calls flooding in. Lena, all these years, you've been wearing a mask, pretending to be gentle and magnanimous in front of me. Aren't you tired? Caleb asked me. I unwrapped a peppermint candy and held it in my mouth to ease the nausea, speaking softly, not tired at all. But you, Caleb, loving me all these years and never able to catch me, doesn't that hurt? Caleb stared into my eyes and suddenly burst into a hysterical laugh, his eyes reddening as he laughed. Lena, you knew all along. You knew everything. Turns out I was the fool. I don't understand why you hate me so much, why you spent 12 years setting a gentle trap, watching me slowly fall into it. I looked out at the noisy night outside, wiping the fog off the glass and drawing an N with my finger. Then I turned to him calmly and said, that little courtyard in T-City wasn't the first time I saw you. The first time was at the hospital. Caleb, you didn't have to go for the blood type matching, but you did anyway. After the match was successful, do you remember what you said at Noah's bedside? 12 years ago, Caleb was reckless and unrestrained. In front of the frail Noah, he sneered, so you're Noah? Causing my parents to divorce all these years, and now you're dying, serves you right. I'm telling you, my blood type matched, so I could donate bone marrow to you. But I refused. Only if you die will my mother's heartache disappear. I stood outside the hospital room, my mind completely blank. Later, when I saw Caleb again, I kept wondering, how could someone so beautiful say such cruel things? What would it be like if one day Caleb were heartbroken, losing the one he loved? Arya announced her permanent withdrawal from the entertainment industry, and her family stepped in to quell the online storm. The three of us sat in the living room of the old house, Arya looking at me with resentment. I leisurely brewed the tea, admiring the way her face twisted with hatred. Arya, you haven't been doing well these days, have you? You look so haggard, and your eyes are still swollen. Here, have some tea to calm your nerves. I handed her a cup, sighed, and advised, the worst days are still ahead, you can't give up this early. Arya slapped my arm away and lunged at me like a madwoman, ready to strike. Caleb firmly restrained her arm and pushed her onto the sofa, speaking wearily, Arya, that's enough. My right hand was hurting badly from her hitting it, so I could only massage it gently to ease the pain. Arya shouted in despair, Caleb. She's ruined us like this, and you're still helping her. Don't you know that in this divorce, she's going to take half of your shares? Everything you've worked so hard for will be gone. I smiled and said, Arya, you've got it wrong. It's 80% of the shares. Didn't Caleb tell you? When he started the business, the initial capital of $20 million came from me. Back then, Caleb was determined to break away from the family, but his relatives wouldn't give him a penny and even restricted his finances. I secretly arranged for Grandma Eleanor to lend Caleb some money, which he used to buy 30% of the shares. On the divorce agreement, I don't want the car or the house, but Caleb had signed an agreement before our marriage and given it to me. If we divorce and he is at fault, he will give me 50% of the company's shares. I took out a lawyer's agreement and threw it onto Arya's lap, speaking calmly and deliberately, the money Caleb has spent on you over the years adds up to 6 or 7 million. This counts as marital property between Caleb and me, and I have the right to reclaim it. Arya, you have 1 month to transfer the money to this charity fund, or we'll see each other in court. Caleb. Brother Caleb. Aren't you going to do anything? Arya completely lost her usual arrogance, screaming and crying. Over the years, the Schur family's situation worsened day by day. First, they were caught for tax evasion, then their overseas investments failed, and they lived by borrowing from here and there. If it weren't for Caleb subsidizing Arya, how could she have gotten by so smoothly? Caleb said nothing, leaning against the sofa, staring at the vase on the table, lost in thought. Arya, as if in despair, cried out, I don't understand why, ever since Lena appeared, we've ended up like this. Her name is in your diary, you only listened to her, and you took revenge on me for her. You're madly in love with Lena, but Caleb, what have you gained? A shattered marriage, a meticulously planned revenge. Caleb said calmly, Arya, I used your information to bring down your family back then, so I've never shortchanged you financially all these years. I sold the house you lived in and gave the money back to Lena. The rest of the money is enough for you to live on. Arya shouted, you're crazy, you're really crazy. This was what you owed me in the first place. I'm not selling the house. Caleb looked at Arya, said nothing, just unclasped the cufflinks on his suit and slammed them onto the table, making a loud noise. Arya's expression faltered, and she suddenly didn't dare to shout anymore. Tears streamed down her face as she ran out. A pot of tea had gone cold, and people were about to leave. Caleb's eyes were bloodshot as he asked me, Lena, why do you have to get a divorce? Can't you fool me for a few more years? I touched my lower abdomen, and like many times before, I walked over and gently embraced him, whispering in his ear, Caleb, I can't keep pretending anymore, because I've realized I really love you. When did I realize Caleb liked me? It was probably the summer I was 17, sitting on the garden swing reading a book. Caleb had been watering the plants when he suddenly called out to me, Lena. Look up. I looked up, and Caleb sprayed a mist of water into the air, which, under the sunlight, formed a beautiful rainbow. I couldn't help but run over to try and catch the rainbow. Caleb stared at me for a moment, then suddenly dropped the shower head and ran off. Every minute or so, he would come back and toss me a towel, casually saying, you're grown up, still playing with water. I had only gotten a little wet, yet he went out of his way to bring me a towel. Watching the unmistakable flush creeping up his ears, I was sure he liked me. Caleb wasn't really the type to love. He lacked patience, had a fiery temper, and was far too proud. Lena, you're walking so slow, like a snail. When we went hiking, he complained verbally but patiently helped me carry the load. Lena. So annoying. Stop nagging me. Before school, he was so grumpy getting up that he scared off 2 nannies. When I knocked on the door, he would still grumble as he got up. I told him that the teacher wouldn't punish him for being late, but I would make him stand in the corner. If he keeps acting like this, then we won't go to school together anymore. Since then, Caleb never stayed in bed in the morning again. After starting university, I got into a school in the north, and he was in the south. Because Arya ruined my right hand, and the Zhou family's attitude left me cold, I was even less willing to let Grandma Eleanor suffer and be upset over my hand. So, I moved out of Caleb's house. Since then, Caleb and I have rarely seen each other. But I couldn't help myself, I wanted to see his face. Later, I would secretly go to his school every week to watch him play basketball, watch him participate in debate competitions, and watch him attend classes. 3 years passed just like that. One random night, I received a call from Caleb's friend, inviting me to a bar. When I arrived, Caleb was already drunk. He held me in his arms, standing in a dimly lit hallway, and with the deafening music blaring, he pressed his forehead against mine and said, "Lena, you like me so much, sneaking over to school every week just to watch me." I didn't answer. Instead, I supported him, took a thermos out of my bag, watched him drink a big cup of honey water, and then fed him some hangover medicine. Holding Caleb's hand, I walked through the wild crowd at midnight, heading outside. The night air was cool and clear, and Caleb, originally silent, accompanied me quietly as we waited for the bus. When the car arrived, he pinned me down on the back seat and kissed me fiercely. "Lena, let's be together. Forget about Arya, you've always been so good to me, okay?" He buried his face in my shoulder, his voice muffled and heavy. After Arya went abroad, we never mentioned my broken hand again. Between Caleb and me, it was as if there was a barrier. We just walked and stopped like that, spending a long stretch of time together. Until I was 25, Caleb took out a ring and slipped it onto my ring finger. He said, "Lena, everyone knows you love me to death. So let's get married, lock me down, and don't give anyone else a chance." The wedding house was bought by him, and he decorated it as well. After I moved in, I found that all the furnishings were arranged exactly as I had dreamed. But I had only talked to Grandma Eleanor about what my future home would look like. Caleb must have overheard. Caleb put his arm around my shoulder, looked at the transparent tube on the wall with disdain, and said, "Why put a tennis collection tube here? I hate tennis, and I've never seen you play it before." I said nothing, almost bursting into tears. Because the house I dreamed of was one I wanted to live in with Noah. That tennis tube was meant to collect tennis balls that accompanied Noah's growth. After each match, he would ask some important friends, coaches, and fans to sign them, then put them away. Caleb shook my shoulder and said, "Not happy? If you want, I'll play a couple of matches with you. Maybe seeing you in tennis clothes will make me like the sport a little bit." That tennis ball collection tube remained empty, and I never played tennis with Caleb. When I left this home, the only thing I took with me was that tennis tube. On the day we were to get the divorce papers, Caleb actually arrived before me. He looked utterly worn out, standing by the roadside smoking. When he saw me, he stubbed out his cigarette. I walked over and said, "Sorry, I'm late." "I was the one who came early," Caleb said, looking at me. "You're leaving here, aren't you?" I didn't answer him. In this bleak, rainy autumn, the road between Caleb and me had finally come to an end. 12 years had passed since I first met him. When we first met, he was a handsome youth with a face similar to Noah's. At parting, his features became clearer in my eyes. His eyebrows and eyes were actually quite different from Noah's. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, we went our separate ways. We didn't say goodbye, because we would never meet again. It was my arrogance and pride that pushed Lena away. She once told me that everything I had in life came too easily, so I didn't know how to cherish it. She also said, "Caleb, you're no different from Arya, cold by nature, utterly disgusting. I have been the heir since childhood, possessing enviable wealth and power." Before meeting Lena, I never knew what it felt like to be denied or to lose something. I grew up with Arya. Many people joked that Arya and I were a perfect match and would definitely get married someday. Though it was said in jest, deep down we both understood that our union was what everyone expected and hoped for. Arya treated me as her possession, willful and unruly, indulging herself without restraint. I never cared how she treated the girls who approached me, because in my heart, rather than marrying someone whose face I barely remember in the future, I'd rather marry Arya. The first time I saw Lena, she was wearing a light blue pleated skirt, standing in the living room, resisting threats from others. At that moment, I only glanced at her misty, moist eyes and quietly thought to myself that girls from the South really are like the books say, they are made of water. She came to my house, calm and unperturbed, living her own life. I always found myself watching her unintentionally. She would get up at 6 in the morning to run, rain or shine, terrifyingly disciplined. At 7 o'clock, after breakfast, she would read in the small living room. After school, she would lock herself in the art studio her grandmother had prepared for her and paint. On weekends, she would ride her bike through the alleys of City B, or carry her hiking backpack to conquer mountains big and small all by herself. Lena seemed never to feel lonely, she always had something of her own to do. The first time I realized I had different feelings for Lena was during a PE class. She sat outside the tennis court, silent, quietly watching the sycamore leaves on the ground. A tennis ball came flying toward her, and suddenly tears fell from her eyes. In the fractured light, she sat alone in the gaps of time, silently weeping. The classmate who had run out from the tennis court, seeing her crying like that, anxiously asked if she was okay and whether she needed to go to the infirmary. I stood under the phoenix tree, watching Lena wipe away her tears and pick up the tennis ball to hand it back to that classmate. Her eyelashes trembled as she softly asked, "I'm fine, classmate. May I ask your name?" The boy's face gradually flushed red. Afterwards, there was no afterwards, that person transferred schools. Power is meant to be wielded willfully. It was also from that time that I began to loathe the sport of tennis. Later, Lena told me, "Caleb, you are just like Arya, trampling on others' dignity as if it were dirt. You indulge Arya because deep down, you think those people's self-respect is worthless." She said this to me in the second year she came to my house. Lena was isolated by Arya at school and had barely managed to make a friend. But Arya forced that girl to kneel on the playground, forcing her to cut ties with Lena. At that moment, I was standing by the second-floor window watching the scene. Lena stood at a distance, calm and composed, her hands clenched tightly as if trying to imprint the moment in her memory. I thought Lena was fragile and helpless, until I saw how she took revenge on Arya. Lena used me. I sat in the living room, watching her walk toward me. She wore a white dress that cinched at the waist, revealing a pair of beautiful legs. "Caleb, can you teach me to dance? The New Year's Eve ball, I'm afraid I'll make a fool of myself." She stood in front of me, quietly looking into my eyes, her tone gentle. That was still the first time she came to my house and got close to me. I held her hand, and to the music, I taught her the dance steps. But after dancing for a while, I realized she already knew how to dance, even gracefully and effortlessly. It was then that Arya burst in, like an enraged cat, violently pushing Lena to the ground, trying to hit her. Lena grabbed Arya's arm, snatched a vase nearby, and smashed it hard, water splashing everywhere. She pressed Arya down onto the shattered glass shards, and Arya screamed in agony. Until someone came over, Lena collapsed to the ground, crying continuously, as if she were the one who had been wronged. Later Arya's family sent someone to ask what exactly had happened. I lied, saying that Arya had tried to hit Lena, accidentally broke the vase, and fell onto the glass shards. Lena was sitting on the sofa at the time. She looked up at me, her eyes cold like morning dew. I asked her why she would do such a thing. Lena stared at me and suddenly smiled. "Caleb, people like you and Arya are truly disgusting. Born with so much, you become so callous that belittling others feels justified." My mind was a mess then, and I just pressed my lips together and said, "I'm not like that. I've warned Arya repeatedly about bullying you, but she's always been headstrong. From now on, I'll keep an eye on her." Lena slowly stepped closer to me, a smile in her eyes, and said word by word, "Guess why she targets me? Because she's afraid you might fall for me." As I was about to come of age, Arya's family brought up the matter of getting engaged to Arya at my 18th birthday ceremony. When my dad informed me, he spoke with certainty, without consulting me. I neither agreed nor refused. Since the day Lena used me to get back at Arya, I began to resist getting close to her in my heart. She acted as if nothing had happened and treated me just like before. The broken stone we found while hiking, with a few strokes drawn on it, was left at my doorstep. At breakfast, I mentioned that the steamed egg was delicious, only then did I realize she had made it. In the summer, when my appetite was poor, she would brew plum tea and bring it to me, but never paid attention to whether I finished it. On a winter morning, I heard someone shouting my name outside. I pulled back the curtains and saw the world covered in white snow, the sunlight cold and pale. Lena, wearing a red woolen hat, stood in front of two large snowmen. She patted the snowman with a drooping face, smiled at me, and then left. The housekeeper said that Lena got up early and spent an hour building the snowman, just so I could see it. The conflict between my dad and me escalated. He wanted me to curry favor with Arya for a business deal, but I refused. I felt stifled inside. Although the Schur family has gained power in recent years, their reckless approach is bound to lead to a fall sooner or later. My dad insisted on tying himself to the Schur family to compete with my mom, but that's not a wise choice. After I got my driver's license, I went to race on a deserted mountain road. Lena somehow found me and climbed into the passenger seat. She sat there calmly, but as soon as the car stopped, she was vomiting violently by the roadside. That was the first time I saw Lena so scared. She held my hand, her voice trembling. "Caleb, I beg you, never gamble with your life." I thought she was worried and afraid for me, but later, when I saw her photo with Noah, I realized what she truly feared was never seeing my face again. At my 18th birthday party, I clearly refused to get engaged to Arya. I made it very clear to my dad, if he didn't want Arya to be the only one showing up that day, then don't bother with any engagement party and making her look ridiculous. That day I drank too much and was lying down in the lounge to rest. Lena came in and wiped my face. I smelled the elegant scent of ink and books on her, and I knew it was her. She was so close to me that I didn't even dare to breathe. It wasn't until she said she wanted to kiss me that I realized, whenever Lena comes near me, I am utterly powerless to refuse. It was that day, the day Arya was completely and utterly enraged. She broke Lena's right hand. I stood outside the hospital room, watching the unconscious Lena, my whole body trembling. The moment I saw Arya, without a second thought, I grabbed the fire extinguisher nearby and rushed toward her. The bodyguard held me back firmly. Arya cried, "I hate Lena with all my heart." "Caleb, it's your fault. You promised me that as long as I didn't let my father force Lena to go abroad, you would agree to get engaged to me, but you broke your promise." Arya was framed by Lena, leaving many small scars on her back. Adults see through children's matters clearly. Uncle Schur smoked a cigarette and smiled at me, saying, "Caleb, you know I only have one daughter, Arya. Everything in the future will belong to her. If she's unhappy, someone has to pay the price." I knew the price he meant was Lena. Lena broke her hand, and my grandmother stepped in to negotiate with Arya's family. Arya went abroad, and Lena left the Zhou family. I was very afraid of seeing Lena again. With her hand broken, she would never be able to paint again in this lifetime. While attending school, I began to deal with Arya's family. When my grandmother found out, she said nothing but mobilized all her resources and connections to help me. In the blink of an eye, it had been a whole year since I last saw Lena. Unable to resist, I dug out an old candid photo of her to take a look. My roommate walked over, surprised, and said, "Oh wow, isn't this the elegant beauty who comes to see you every week? So, have you been moved?" Only then did I realize that Lena had been coming to see me every week throughout the past year. My roommate is a photography enthusiast and never misses capturing every event. He showed me a photo of Lena sitting in the corner of the basketball court. Lena, wearing a hat, standing in the distance watching me during the debate competition. Even in a certain class, she sat in the last row, still watching me. I held back and didn't go to find her. Another 2 years passed, and I set a trap, secretly assuming an identity to design Arya family's offshore investment. Arya family suffered a total loss. Arya's domestic industry suffered from poor quality control, leading to frequent complaints, a collapse of their reputation online, and unsold goods. The tax authorities intervened due to tax evasion, completely ruining their plans to borrow from banks for cash flow. By gaining a time advantage, I want to acquire Arya's overseas assets, but I'm still short of 20 million. My dad found out I was targeting Arya and went mad because he had long been tightly allied with the Schur family. He used every means to try to trap me. I never expected my grandmother to so quickly come up with the missing 20 million for me. She said casually that it was money taken by Lena. I felt a lump in my throat. I knew that for me, those 20 million was just circulating capital in the business world, but for Lena, it was all her savings. I transferred 30% of the company shares to Lena, held on her behalf by my grandmother. Even if Lena couldn't work or support herself in the future because of issues with her wrist, she would never have to worry about food or clothing for the rest of her life. I won the final victory in the battle against Arya's family. Arya called me from abroad. Caleb, you're ruthless. All these years, you've been coaxing me, teasing me. I thought you had truly forgotten Lena and wanted to start over with me. But it turns out you were just using me to extract business information from my father. Now my family has fallen apart, are you satisfied? Arya, you're wrong about one thing, we were never together, so there's no question of starting over. I hung up the phone. Arya threatened to kill herself abroad, but she didn't really want to die, she was just afraid of losing her life of wealth and luxury. To make it up to her, I regularly sent her money to maintain her life of luxury. The day everything settled, I got drunk at a bar, finally able to face Lena. She wove through the crowd to take me away, as calm and composed as ever, even remembering to bring me honey water and hangover medicine late at night. At that moment, I thought, if Lena ever truly loved someone, no one could escape her. In the taxi, I mustered all the courage I had in my life to kiss her. Lena, let's be together. Forget about Arya, you've always been so good to me, please? I pleaded with her. We were together, but I felt like something was missing. Lena was very, very good to me, but it seemed like her heart was never really with me. After starting work, there were inevitably some messy social engagements. She never cared about the unfamiliar scent of perfume on me, or who had once sat in the passenger seat beside me. Occasionally, when I came home late at night, I would find her sitting alone on the sofa, staring at the empty tennis ball holder on the wall. She heard the noise, turned to look at me, saw the wounds on my face, and looked startled. What's wrong with your face? Have you seen a doctor? Will it leave a scar? She touched the faint scar on my face, her eyes betraying a deep worry. I held her close, breathing in her scent, and my restless heart slowly began to calm. I joked, looks like the thing you care about most is my face. If my face had been ruined that day, would you have packed your bags and run off? Unexpectedly, my words became a prophecy. To this day, I can't describe the feelings I had when I saw her in a photo with Noah. I only learned about Noah when I was in my teens, and finally understood the sudden conflicts between my parents over all those years, tangled with love and hate. I only saw Noah once, and by then he was very ill. I was a match, but I would never donate bone marrow to Noah. At that time, I was too proud to even think about investigating Noah, I just went to see him once. After getting that group photo, I sent someone to Tongcheng to investigate Noah and obtained more and more pictures. Lena and Noah were very famous at Tongcheng Middle School, and many people had secretly taken photos of them. Lena swung her legs while sitting on the back seat of Noah's bike, still biting into a peach. At all of Noah's tennis matches, Lena always sat in the front row, watching him intently. On a rainy summer day, Noah held an umbrella, half of his body soaked, carefully wrapping his arms around Lena to shield her from the rain. Noah carried a backpack on his back and held another in his hand, watching Lena walk along the top of the tall flower wall, ready to catch her at any moment. No wonder Arya wasn't angry at all when she provoked Lena by saying she grew up with me while Lena was just an outsider. It turns out, in her youth, Noah was there to protect her all the way, growing up alongside her. Jealousy burned away my reason, and I began to provoke Lena using Arya. The first time at home, I deliberately answered Arya's call on speakerphone. Lena stood there holding a blanket, quietly listening as I finished the call. She didn't care, not at all. Compared to the hurt Noah caused me, Arya was nothing more than a feathered shadow to Lena, insignificant. I couldn't take it anymore, 3 months on a business trip. Drunk out of my mind in the hotel, my assistant actually let Arya in, and Arya took photos of us sharing the same room. On the first night I returned home, I sat in the living room, waiting for Lena to come back. In the quiet night, the clock hands moved round and round. I wondered, during the year I had neglected Lena, how many lonely nights she had spent waiting for me to come home. After waiting for me, and then seeing the traces I deliberately left behind, what must she have felt? Lena came back, looking a bit tired, yet she still brewed a pot of flower tea for me. After finishing a cup of tea, she took out the divorce agreement. In that moment, all the emotions I had been holding back finally erupted. Without hesitation, I signed the agreement and left the house in a fit of rage. But I didn't leave. I sat in the car, smoking continuously. I wanted to go back, but I couldn't bring myself to face her. In the days that followed, I kept waiting for Lena to come to me. I thought she surely couldn't bear to lose a face just like Noah's, mine. But I never expected that Lena was already tired of me. She used online public opinion to completely destroy Arya's career, leaving her utterly defeated. She stood before the two of us, just like before, neither arrogant nor impatient, neither hurried nor slow. In front of her, Arya was like a collapsing clown, jumping up and down in despair. Lena is truly ruthless, truly ruthless. She actually held me and said that she wanted a divorce because she could no longer deceive me, because she realized she had fallen in love with me. On the day of the divorce, I was in a car accident and lay in a hospital bed for 3 months before waking up, emaciated and skeletal. During my recovery, I handed the company over to a professional manager and stayed at the home Lena and I shared. I looked around the house for a long time before realizing that, apart from the tennis racket on the wall, Lena hadn't taken anything else. 2 years later, my grandmother noticed something was wrong with me. My mental state had deteriorated, and I relied on alcohol and medication every day just to fall asleep. In the end, she felt sorry for me and gave me Lena's address. It turned out she had returned to T-City. I flew to T-City overnight and drove to her residence. It was snowing heavily on the way, and when my car stopped outside her apartment complex, I suddenly lost the courage to see her. I sat in the car, restless and unable to control my emotions. The car window was knocked on. I rolled down the window, and a cute little face looked up at me. Her beautiful eyes curiously studied me as she said innocently, "Car, blocking the way." I was momentarily stunned, staring blankly at the little girl. "Caleb, move the car a bit, you're blocking the way here." The person holding her bent down to speak to me, their tone calm and gentle as before, methodically directing me to reverse. I stumbled out of the car, almost too flustered to walk. The little girl, wearing a pink knitted hat, revealed her round, chubby face as she sat in Lena's arms, looking at me. She stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly blew a bubble and exclaimed with delight, "Daddy, he's Daddy." Lena smiled gently, wiping the drool from her mouth. "Yes, Daddy. Our little orange is so smart, she remembers what Daddy looks like." I stood stiffly in place, unable to speak. Lena took a few steps, then turned to look at me. "Caleb, could you help hold our daughter? I can't use my right hand, and holding her with one hand is a bit tiring." I walked over and awkwardly cradled the soft little girl. She curiously touched my ear, then my lips, her hands were soft and fragrant. "I'm planning to make pork rib soup, little orange has been loving it lately," Lena said as she walked. "I thought you'd arrive later. It snowed today, but your flight wasn't delayed, pretty lucky." I followed Lena back home, and as soon as we opened the door, a wave of warmth greeted us. The wall in the entryway was covered with many photos of Lena and Noah. I quickly glanced over and found a picture of Lena and me together. Little Orange pointed at Noah's photo, then at mine, and said very seriously, "Mom, Uncle, Dad, Little Orange." All right, I know Little Orange is smart and can tell the difference between Dad and Uncle." Lena handed me some slippers and let Little Orange go ahead to the living room. I stood at the entrance changing my shoes, my movements slow, feeling that this moment was not real, as if in a dream. Lena suddenly smiled and said, "When we divorced, Little Orange was only 3 months old. In the blink of an eye, she's already over 2 years old. Time really flies." "No, time hasn't flown at all. In the days you were gone, every moment felt like a year, every second a torment." Before coming, I really wanted to ask Lena, if back then, when I found out about Noah, I had been honest with her instead of stubbornly neglecting and distancing her, using Arya to provoke her, would our story have ended differently? But I knew, there was no need to speak again. Lena had long been ahead of time, only I remained, covered